Hey everyone, welcome back to Chipstock Investor. Today we are going to talk about Arista Networks. We have been long-time shareholders of this company, and the stock has doubled in the last year. So we're going to talk about after earnings, is this run over?
This is one of our longtime favorites. Always a great educational experience listening to the earnings call with CEO Jayshree Olal and the top team. A year ago, Kasey, maybe a year plus, when we were still in the bear market, on a forward-looking basis, the stock was a screaming value. And now it's like something approaching almost a household name with all the AI hype going on, but for good reason. This company has been eating up Cisco market share, taken its lunch for quite some time. And it looks like that's actually going to continue this year. So it's an expensive stock once again, like it has been for many years prior to the bear market, let's say, but definitely warrants attention. Let's get to know Arista Networks and what they have planned for 2024.
Looking at the semiconductor industry flow chart to see where Arista Network falls in, we can draw a big oval around this tech equipment and devices and enterprise software section. They design, but they do not manufacture enterprise hardware for data centers, internet infrastructure, and accompanying enterprise software. You could think about this as the highway and the freeway system for the internet.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way of thinking this. Kind of a nebulous business to many folks, but think of this as like an engineer designing that highway and freeway system. And instead of handling traffic, cars and vehicles and moving people and goods around, this infrastructure that Arista Networks helps design moves data around, which, as you probably know, in this new generative AI, let's just call it accelerated computing infrastructure boom, a massive amount of data needing to be moved around to facilitate this accelerated compute trend. So Arista Networks has absolutely exploded higher in the last couple of years as a result.
Arista Networks full year 2023 results revenue was up 34% compared to 2022. Net income up well over 50% year over year.
Yeah, it was an epic year to be sure. And just to drive home the point of just how important this company is to data center operators, be them the big cloud infrastructure companies like Microsoft Azure. It could be specialty cloud operators like Meta, aka Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, or it could be some of the companies that need a private use data center. A lot of financial companies tap Arista Networks for this help. You probably know, if you've watched our past videos, there's been a pretty sizable decline this past year. And again, what we'll call legacy cloud and IT infrastructure, with all of the money flowing to generative AI, accelerated compute infrastructure. Arista grew, they don't care which end market grows. They address both things. If it involves moving information around, moving data around, it could be for legacy cloud and IT, or it could be for new gen AI. They are a crucial partner. Speaking of which, Microsoft and Meta are both very large customers. Meta, 21% of revenue last year, Microsoft, 18%. And also big growth in their enterprise customers, especially those not cloud-based, those companies that need a private use data center. Really good stuff going on here, driving Arista's continual long-term advance.
In the earnings call, CEO Jayshree Olal mentioned that their enterprise business was 36% of their revenue in 2023, and their $1 million customers steadily increased in 2023 at approximately 35% as a direct result of the campus and enterprise movement. Can you explain a little bit more about why that's important, Nick?
Yeah, so Arista has evolved over the years. It's a full-blown engineering platform, let's call it at this point. Back in the day, they made specialty equipment, networking equipment, routers and switches that help control the flow of information in a data center. But they broadened that ecosystem with a lot of ancillary services and more equipment. But right from the start, they were software-driven, open architecture platform, which really is a key differentiator for them versus the likes of Cisco. And so all along the way, as they've built out their ecosystem of products and services, they've kept that single platform that a customer can use and implement in their system. And what's nice about it is they can buy this equipment piecemeal. They can buy the whole kit and use all of the software tools. But because it's open architecture, they can use their own stuff and mix and match and customize it to their needs. This has been a key differentiating factor and one that continues to win Arista market share. And now that we have this accelerated compute growth happening, a lot of companies are very interested again in, okay, they have a lot of cloud infrastructure in place with big public cloud providers like Azure, Google Cloud, Amazon, AWS. Not all of that data they want to keep in the public cloud for various reasons. In fact, some of it maybe is regulatory. If you're a financial company or a healthcare company, maybe you need to keep it private. And so if you want to use that data though, in an accelerated compute application, what do you do with it? If it's siloed in your private data center or in an office building somewhere in an on-prem facility, you can still turn to Arista Networks to upgrade your systems. The same Gen I infrastructure being applied in public cloud infrastructure can also be applied on premises and in private data centers. And that extensible platform that they talk about all the time, being able to cover everything from legacy, cloud, to now the new high-end stuff, you can do it all with Arista and piece together something specific to your needs. Key differentiating bit of this tech platform. It's a really, really strong business.
Arista said that they had limited visibility on customer ordering patterns, but that's pretty typical for their management style. They still expect a double-digit growth of 10 to 12% and aiming for approximately $6.5 billion in total revenue in 2024. This is in contrast to what Cisco has penciled in for their revenue for next year. They, of course, will update that later this week, but as of the last report, the company was expecting revenue to fall as much as 6% in 2024. And of course, since they have that acquisition of Splunk still pending, Cisco probably is not as concerned with fighting back against Arista Networks at this point.
Yeah, we think this actually does benefit Arista Networks. It's not necessarily that Cisco is like taking its eye off the ball with execution, but they're huge. Even in a down year for Cisco, they're going to do 52, 53, 54 billion in revenue. Massive company compared to 6.5 billion for Arista. Arista is now a little over 1/10 the size of Cisco, but you know, massive discrepancy between these two businesses. We see no real reason Arista won't continue on the course it's been and keep eating up market share versus incumbents.
Continuing with the outlook for Arista, the new CFO gave us a little more detail on what they're looking for in that 10 to 12%. They said that the outlook included moderated cloud spending, but a continued growth trajectory in the enterprise business. And we've discussed this recently with Fortinet, cybersecurity networking equipment. A big jump in hardware installs tend to trickle down to more services revenue in subsequent years. And so something similar could be happening with Arista.
Yeah. And then that's the full year high level view, Kasey, which we think maybe they're sandbagging a bit. They certainly did last year when they said to expect 25% revenue growth and they ended up with 34% growth. But let's maybe drill down to the Q1 outlook. They're expecting 1.52 billion to 1.56 billion in revenue, up about 12 to 13% year over year. And then profit margins, both on a gross margin and operating margin basis, expected to be up a percentage point or two. So we think mid to high teens % increase in earnings per share is the base case for the next quarter. Even though we're looking at a sizable slowdown for the business in 2024, this is still a company executing very, very well in a pretty soft market for its big peers.
Nick, you picked up on something on the balance sheet that could indicate that Arista Networks is planning something bigger. Let's talk about that.
Huge.
Huge. Sorry, not just bigger, huge. Let's talk about that. Their cash on balance sheet is currently $5 billion. They did not do any stock repurchases in the last quarter. So what are you thinking?
Yeah. They don't have much left available to repurchase either on the authorization. That remaining left on the authorization, 145 million. Okay, that's fine. This could be as simple as management saying, stock price is high, the valuation is high. Let's be strategic about it and wait until there's a better value on our stock before we use up the cash. That it could be as simple as that. But Kasey, the 5 billion in cash and short-term investments compares to less than 3 billion at the end of 2022. They still have no debt. This is far and away the most cash this company has ever had on balance. And given some of the other industry items that have hit the news, of course, we have semiconductor giant Broadcom just purchased VMware, one of the leading cloud computing enterprise software management tool sets out there. You already mentioned Cisco in process of acquiring Splunk. We mentioned this briefly in past videos, HP Enterprise buying Juniper Networks, Juniper being a longtime competitor and upstart along with Arista Networks in the enterprise networking department. And Arista, not exactly a stranger to making acquisitions, although in the past they've been small. They did acquire a handful of cybersecurity startups, some router and switch design companies a couple of years ago. So obviously management's open to the idea of a big splashy acquisition, and total speculation here, Kasey, but I would not at all be surprised to see them announce a big deal for an enterprise software company to complement their growing services business. So it could be a combination of cash plus stock. Maybe they use their higher stock price right now as a type of currency to pay for something. Maybe it's a smaller all cash deal. I don't know. But the fact that they have elevated cash on balance now and didn't make any share repurchases in the last quarter makes me think they're planning something big. Again, total speculation. That's not a reason why we're buying the stock right now. And certainly don't think it's a reason for any other investors to go out there and buy the stock either. Just something interesting to keep tabs on here.
So for Arista, shares currently trade at 42 times trailing 12-month free cash flow as of this video. Where does that put us, Nick? Are we adding to our position? Seems a little high.
It is. It's back to, how it traded pre-bear market. Yeah, it is a high price. I don't think it's completely unreasonable. We're not buying, but we already have a full position. As you mentioned at the outset, we've owned this one for quite a few years. I think going on six or 7 years at this point since our first initial purchase. And we did add to it during the bear market. So at this time, we're not adding more. And for any investor that wants to own this long term, because of that high price tag, I think this is just yet another classic example of one that you put on a small dollar cost average plan and keep some cash handy to maybe go shopping when there is, not if, but when there is a sizable pullback. Pretty minimal pullback here after the last quarter's update. And especially, like you said at the outset, Kasey, stocks doubled in the last year. It's been a pretty epic run up. We think some cautious optimism is in order here because this is a fantastic business. This is definitely a good one that has executed very well for many years, and we think will continue to execute very well for years to come.
Okay, that's a wrap on our take on Arista Networks. Stay tuned for more updates later this week. And as earnings season continues on, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And of course, check out our membership option on Ko-fi or YouTube to have access to our Discord channel, to have discussions about Arista Networks and any and every semiconductor company out there. Hope to see you all again soon at Chipstock Investor.